So today I'm going to go through a full overview of Chesapeake, the neighborhoods, the areas, what it feels like to live in different parts of the area. So by the time this video is over, you will have a great idea of where you might want to move, because it's very, very hard to figure out the best spots in Chesapeake. We'll go through all the price ranges, all the styles of houses, everything that I think you need to know before you make a decision about moving, whether you should move to or where to move in Chesapeake. And we're starting right now. Hey, my name is Sam Santalone and I'm a real estate agent in the Hampton Roads area. That goes from Virginia Beach and through Williamsburg, and I do videos every week about living and moving to the area. So we're talking all about Chesapeake today. All the neighborhoods. I'm going to show you first where Chesapeake is. If you've been researching it, you'll notice that it's a very big city. So looking at the map, I'm going to show a lot of map today and you'll get a full idea of what's around. So you see Chesapeake is a very big city and it encompasses a large part of the south side of Hampton Roads and it's a lot of country. You notice that all this green section here on the bottom south part of Chesapeake, that's rural parts of town, a lot of this is. And so there's a lower concentration of houses in that southern part. Now, as you get closer into one main interstate, which is Interstate 64, which goes in a big horseshoe, the closer you are to that interstate, the more houses, the more stuff, the more shopping, the more grocery stores that there are going to be, regardless of what part of Chesapeake you're going to be moving to. So we're going to first start with the eastern side of Chesapeake, which I would consider a couple of different sections. One is South Norfolk, which is over here on the northeastern corner of Chesapeake. But if you notice, it's next to Portsmouth. It's just south of Norfolk. It is just west of Virginia Beach. It's right here. And you look on the map, it's like no one really pays attention to South Norfolk. A lot of people just kind of bypass it and don't really know what's there. People that haven't moved here before don't know what's there. So I'm going to drop a pin here because you'll notice that it's a very old part of town. Old 30s, 40s. This is the closest thing to what I think Norfolk feels like in Chesapeake. And you also almost kind of forget that you're in Chesapeake when you're in this part of town. It's a lot of Cape Cod style houses in here. And also as you zoom out, there's a neighborhood like proper South Norfolk has a lot of those craftsman style houses. Like here, this is Ohio Street. This is the most original Norfolk-esque feel neighborhood that you'll find in Chesapeake. Now the prices in here are relatively cheap, and you can find houses in here in the $200,000-$300,000 price range. And to get a house that's renovated or brand new, you're talking 4 to 5. But again, for the size, for the style of house, probably one of the cheaper spots you can find these styles of houses anywhere in the Hampton Roads area. Now that comes, with the vibe of a lot of industrial feels in here. I drop a pin on Poindexter Street, you'll see what I'm talking about. Chesapeake's trying to do a lot to South Norfolk. It's getting newer. It's getting cleaned up a bit in some spots, but it's still kind of it's an old town. You see here, lots of old strip malls, lots of old shops, and you're seeing some, old buildings get renovated, which is nice. You're seeing that a little bit of a cleanup happen, but it's got that old South Norfolk vibe that some people like. But it's not for everybody. And if you want a cheaper house, you'll find some nice nooks in here that you really, for the price, are awesome. I have some friends that spent or grew up in South Norfolk. You'll see some spots that have maybe a little bit larger size lots. You can find some cheaper options in Chesapeake. However, what people often forget is that this part of Chesapeake is not the same school district as what you might find in other parts of Chesapeake that people come to research to move to specifically for school districts. So that's one thing I want to mention too, is the school district is not the same in here as opposed to South Chesapeake. But going further towards the east, this is where you start getting into some really interesting nooks here. Over towards Indian River Road, near Wingfield Avenue, there's a neighborhood called Seminole Park that's going up towards the north corner here near the water. Love this neighborhood. I used to live right near here. Sparrow Road's right here. So these houses, you'll find that as you go further towards the water, the lot sizes start increasing, but they're kind of closer to the 50s and 60s age built houses. See these lots here, just a little bit larger, right? You get a little bit more space as you go further back. These are going to be 300s to 400s, and then as you get towards the water, 5 and up, right on the water. But again, for the price, for what you're getting, it's pretty good. So you see a lot of nice waterfront access here. It's some of the cheapest waterfront access anywhere in Chesapeake, or really Virginia Beach, anywhere close by. It's on the Elizabeth River. So as you get further closer to Indian River Road, you'll notice something. I'm going to show you this too. Show you as you get close to the main road, the houses aren't as nice looking. You know, this get back to those Cape Cod style, very common. But you'll find that as you get close, like right on Indian River Road, this whole area feels pretty run down. It's just old. Like this used to be an old Bank of America building. Now it's vacant. The strip mall behind it was vacant too, or it had like a medical center. But now that's being renovated. So even right now, it says 2024. You're starting to see some growth or some change happen in this part of town, to where I think that you're starting to see a little bit more of like the city's kind of doing more to make this more of a focal point to rejuvenate. So I like this. I like the fact that there's some parks that should be coming nearby. I like the future of what's around this area. One great restaurant nearby is Wicker's. Great restaurant, a seafood place. They have a nice little crab bag where you can get like crab claws. You buy a bag of claws, and then it's a lot of work, but for what you're paying for, it's pretty cheap, fun little crab like night dinner. So anyway, zooming back out, you'll find some other like neighborhoods similar to what you find in South Norfolk, and also close to Seminole Park. Same kinds of things in here. Again, prices anywhere from like $275, $350, $400 mostly, and then as you go towards the water, it goes up from there. So that's most of this part of Chesapeake. And then a lot of this is also as you go further south, closer to Indian River School District, as you go further down into closer to Greenbrier, which is the next part of town I'll mention. As you go into Indian River, the neighborhood I first want to mention next is Norfolk Highlands, which is a very large neighborhood. I did videos about Norfolk Highlands before. This whole section here, as you go down across Indian River Road, in this section over here, all these houses are, and you'll see it's a mishmash. And this is where you get some good value too. $325, $350, $375, $300, $275. Sometimes you might find one. But newer houses are $4 to $5. But you'll find like you get some old houses mixed with old, new, and that quilt feel that you might find, like where there's no real set pattern, is what again makes it feel. It feels kind of weird, I guess, in one sense. But I think for what you're paying for, I think you get some good value there. So that's Norfolk Highlands. As you zoom out, a lot of houses and a bunch of streets in here that all fall into the South Norfolk, or into the Norfolk Highlands part of town. So as you go closer to Military Highway right here, this takes you down to Greenbrier. Now, what I want to talk about Greenbrier, there's a lot of stuff to talk about with Greenbrier. People like Greenbrier a lot because it's one of the most commonly discussed parts of Chesapeake, and I think ever, right? It's constantly discussed. And one of the reasons is because Greenbrier has a lot of shopping. It was a focal point of shopping in the 90s, and it really didn't stop until the 2000s, 2010s. I mean, it still is. It really hasn't changed much in 25 years. There are some things that have lost its luster. For example, Greenbrier Mall, which is next to Greenbrier Parkway. That was like the prime, like the class of Chesapeake. And now it really isn't much of anything. And so, it's the mall, right? Not many people like malls at this point, but you're close to lots of other shopping big box stores. This was the king of big box in the 90s and 2000s. Still is, but it's just, not as many people find this as new and unique anymore. Harris Teeter, Best Buy, Target, those are the three primary ones. Barnes & Noble's over here. Lots of other smaller shops, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, that type of stuff. And so that's all through Greenbrier. So being close to Greenbrier, living near Greenbrier is helpful. There are some great neighborhoods around Greenbrier that are some townhouses that are great in the 200s, 250, 300 price range. There are some neighborhood called Bayberry Forest, which is right off of Eden Way that goes off towards the water. Great neighborhood here right behind Greenbrier Mall. Some other neighborhoods that are like in the 350, 375 price range, you can get a real nice spot and very convenient access to the rest of town. And then you'll find as you go up, you'll get $500,000 range. There's one neighborhood called Emerald Greens, which I like a lot, which is right inside of the Greenbrier Country Club, or it's surrounded by the Greenbrier Country Club. More custom style houses. These are more like $7 2 million, 2-ish along the water, maybe 1.3 maybe. These are more custom-ish style houses, large lots and large houses. 4,000 square feet is very normal. You can find some larger than that. So if you want a bigger house, the chance maybe of having maybe like a nicer area for, if you have more family that live in your house, this is a spot that I think I would check out. Now, some of these have stucco siding, which to me, I'm not a fan of stucco siding because there's a good example of one right there. It's fine. Like, it's fine if it's in good condition. The problem with stucco is that it's a hard surface, and if you don't maintain it very well, it's easy for water to get behind the stucco and cause more damage. And so people, I think, often assume that they've got a hard surface on the exterior of their house, it's going to be fine, don't worry about it. But it's not like a brick, for example, which even brick, can have damage too. But my point is that with stucco, it takes a little bit more maintenance than I think people recognize or realize. So I'm just not as big a fan of stucco. You'll find some houses in here, like in this early 90s range, that were built stucco. But this is where you'll find a lot more townhouses, condos, even like in the 350, 375 price range, close to Greenbrier. This is when the townhouse and condo vibe really popped in the 90s, right? So that's why Greenbrier has so many of those, or more of them. And so as you come out, there are more neighborhoods that are like Norfolk Estates, like 375, 450 price range, near Kempsville Road and Greenbrier Parkway. More like 50s and 60s style houses. I'll drop a pin over here too. So these are, I really like this style a lot because it's what do you call the Great Bridge Special. I think you see a lot of these types of houses all through Chesapeake. And I just like where this area is. So you get a nice functional house, decent sized lot, functional backyard, but nothing really fancy here. But you get a nice floor plan, garage, and you're very close to a lot of nice stuff because you're close to a couple main roads, Kempsville Road here and also Greenbrier Parkway here. So if you're looking for houses in Chesapeake, a couple main roads that are in this area near Greenbrier that are very key to be close to. So the first one is Kempsville, because Kempsville runs, see here, this is Kempsville right here. It runs all the way through Chesapeake, south in Greenbrier area, all up into through Virginia Beach, into close to Interstate 264, which takes you over to the rest of Virginia Beach. It goes all the way through there to the bypass 168. It's a long road, and off of that road go a lot of different neighborhoods and also other streets. One of which, Centerville Turnpike, a main primary road that gets you from the suburbs all the way down into the country. This road right here. This long one, all the way into the country. Centerville is important, and Kempsville and Centerville intersect. And also Greenbrier Parkway, which here's Greenbrier Parkway right here, that also intersects Kempsville Road too. And also Battlefield Boulevard, which connects right next to Kempsville Road right here. See the intersection right here, which is a super annoying intersection. Nevertheless, it's a very important one, and being off Kempsville will take you towards Greenbrier, towards Battlefield Boulevard, another important neighborhood in the Greenbrier area. These main roads, you'll see a ton of neighborhoods that pop off of all those main roads. And as the city of Chesapeake grew, mainly in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, you'll see more houses that were built off of these roads. Butt Station is one that was built more like in the 90s, 2000s. A lot of neighborhoods, built in that area. Even some newer construction, even recently, that's been built off of Butt Station Road, off Clearfield, for example. Some great neighborhoods over here. A bit larger in some spots. So Greystone's a great neighborhood, like in the 758-ish range, around south of Clearfield right here. I'll drop a pin there. So big fan of this neighborhood a lot. Back to the whole little bit larger house for the price thing. I like the house size combo, lot size combo that you can find in a place like Greystone. And I just like what you can find as far as floor plan styles in this part of town near Butt Station, just away from Greenbrier. And being able to get from there to the rest of town is not too far. So when we were looking for houses, we were looking in Virginia Beach or Chesapeake and trying to decide for us. And for us, getting the most functional floor plan, but also getting access to as much stuff around was important. And to us, being around this Clearfield Avenue area, like Greystone is a good example, this area was to us about as close as we wanted to be, or as far away as we wanted to be, but also able to get to other parts of Virginia Beach, Norfolk, and Chesapeake, and even Williamsburg. And we wanted to be close to a place that had a good access point to Interstate 64 because that's such a key interstate to take you to the rest of Hampton Roads. So we wanted to be close to that somehow. But it was just kind of too far for us at the end of the day. But point is that this is kind of right at the edge where suburb meets country right here. So as you leave Greenbrier, because let me start over. And we continue to Greenbrier. Greenbrier here, there's a lot of shopping. Going off Volvo Parkway, there's a neighborhood or an area called Summit Point, which is brand new. Right here, I did a big video about Summit Point, which is kind of the newest. Dollar Tree just developed this whole area. The Dollar Tree headquarters, there's the Dollar Tree headquarters right there. Next to it, apartments, restaurants, a brewery that is Wasserhund, which is in there as well, and which started over in Virginia Beach. So First Wash is a great brunch spot. Some real nice, new-ish, walkable apartment and restaurant stuff all through Summit Point. Luce, great restaurant, Italian restaurants in there too. But as you come away from Volvo Parkway, or you're headed down Volvo Parkway away from Summit Point, you hit Battlefield Boulevard, which is the other part of Greenbrier. Lowe's, Home Depot over here, and some great neighborhoods. For example, one of my favorites that I think gets overlooked a lot is Essex Meadows, which is just south of Volvo Parkway, right in the corner between Volvo Parkway and Battlefield Boulevard. This you can take straight from Essex Meadows into Volvo Parkway. You get to Summit Point, you can get to the rest of Greenbrier, you can get to Greenbrier Mall or the big boxes. So it's more of a brick ranch style neighborhood, which is again back to the Chesapeake very commonly built house style, but nice floor plans. There's older houses though, so if you don't want an older house, this might not be the good option unless you find one that's been renovated. But I just like the lot sizes. You find that there's more space from, like, for example, the house down to the curb, even more this land, so it feels like you're kind of set apart from more stuff. I just like that feeling. And so being in like a place like Essex Meadows, you're talking 4-ish, 415, 425 price range. I think you can find some good value in this area just because it's so convenient to the rest of town, and some nice lot sizes too. But then you got more as you come off towards Lowe's and Home Depot. And similar kind of neighborhoods over to the south part as well. Another great one is Greenwood Estates, which is on the other side of Battlefield Boulevard, relatively close to Essex Meadows. Same kind of thing, real nice nook back here. Lots are nice. You're talking 4, maybe 500,000, maybe some cheaper ones if you're talking maybe a little on the smaller end, but you never know. But I like these, the trees, the tree coverage. I don't think many people know much about Greenwood Estates because it's kind of secret. You know, you just don't. It's right behind a car dealership, and so you kind of see the car dealership and just drive on by. So I like this neighborhood, this part of town, for some nice little nooks you can find in this in and around the neighborhood. And also being close to Oak Grove, or the Oak Grove Park, which is nice too. So being in the neighborhood near here is going to get you access to the park easily. So I've been here and run here in the past. You can drive from anywhere to get here. Like there's a parking lot as you get close to the park right here, and you can walk in through the woods and get to the lake. So if you want a nice consistent running trail, it's a very quiet spot that I don't think people utilize this as much as they should. I just like this a lot. You're close to the interstate, but you don't really notice it. It's kind of nice little oasis next to all the hubbub around it. So I'm a big fan of Oak Grove. Coming away from Greenbrier now, we're gonna go back further south. This is, I mentioned, the line between country and suburbia, if you will. Close to Butt Station, Elbow Road, over towards Kempsville, right near the bypass, the 168 bypass. This is where it starts getting into two things. Country, which is as you get further towards Butt Station, down the further side, it's the gateway to the country. And also like the more country suburbia. It's still suburban, like a lot of 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s style houses. Especially all through like Wilson Heights, great example of a neighborhood off Cedar Road. I love this neighborhood in like the 450-ish price range. But you'll find also that you'll see more houses built in the 80s, the 90s, and 2000s because this area had some 50s and 60s neighborhoods nearby, but there was still a lot of land to develop. A lot of land, a lot of farmers that owned property, may have sold it to someone that maybe did a strip mall, someone that developed a neighborhood. So places like Albemarle Acres, great example. This whole area over here, this was built like in the 50s and 60s, but nearby there you see across the street, Kroger. That's a new Kroger as of the last 20-ish years. I remember going to friends' houses in Chesapeake, and this was just a big field. Like, so I'll drop a pin. This was nothing in the 90s, literally nothing. And now it's something. But so there's just this one strip mall and then nothing across the street. So this is a great example of what you'll find in Chesapeake, in the like South Chesapeake area, is the old style. You got these old like 50s and 60s strip malls, old 50s and 60s neighborhoods that supported these strip malls supported, and then the newer ones like the 90s 2000s areas that are still supporting those same old neighborhoods, but also a lot of the newer neighborhoods that got built up in the 90s and 2000s. And so the main part I want to mention to you, that if you want something that's not like 50s and 60s, like I don't want the ranch style, Sam, I don't want the Great Bridge Special. Well, you'll find a lot of those in the South part of Chesapeake, all through here. But if you're okay with like the 4 to 5 and 6 price range, you'll find a lot of options as you go towards Etheridge Manor Boulevard. Etheridge Lakes, Etheridge Manor, Etheridge Point, Etheridge Woods, a lot of neighborhoods that have Etheridge in it, and it's kind of all based around the Etheridge Manor Boulevard area. So a lot of houses that were built like more like in the 90s, 2000s, or I'll show you what I mean. You'll see more vinyl siding houses. So these are like in the 4 or 5 price range, maybe $5.25. And some of these are probably priced here because you're in a school district that's in high demand. So Hickory High School District is the school district near here. People really love being in Hickory School District. So if you want Hickory, you want Great Bridge, and you want Grassfield, this is where your focal point is, in the south part of Chesapeake. So you're coming down off of Centerville Turnpike here. This is kind of the gateway to the country suburban area, and this is where you'll find that those school districts that people are really going after and are willing to pay for in a higher price in houses. So keep that in mind too. One thing to mention too is as you get closer to Centerville Turnpike, like so anywhere near Fentress, anywhere near, I mentioned Ravenna is a great neighborhood that's like in the $750 price range over here. Great neighborhood. This whole area here, as you're close to this area, you're closer to the Fentress Airfield. So what does that mean? I talk a lot about the Oceana Naval Air Station that is over in the eastern part of Virginia Beach. But Chesapeake has its own airfield, which is the Fentress Airfield, which is an in-butt station. See this right here? As you go further east away from the rest of Chesapeake, this spot is you'll get some jet noise. So jets do fly, and it's noticeable as you get closer to Centerville Turnpike. And so definitely still check the ACU's jet noise zone map just so you can know. To me, unless you're really, really close by, to me it's not as noisy as what you might find like in Oceana. But nevertheless, there are some spots that I think you'd still want to keep in mind as you get closer to Mount Pleasant. Hey, if you really want to avoid all the noise, just keep that in mind before you start making a decision on the eastern side of Chesapeake. Now, as you go further south even more, similar school districts, Great Bridge and Hickory, and you'll see Great Bridge East here. You'll see more houses that are built further away from each other. Woodard's Mill is one of my favorite neighborhoods if you're talking like 900 to a million, 1.2, because you get the 3-acre lots and you get just massive houses and massive. It feels very secluded. It feels very exclusive is a good word for it, and you get a ton of trees. You are deep in, like, it feels like you're in the woods. So I like that feeling which you get in Woodard's Mill. Not everybody likes this, but if you do like it, this is a very hard thing to replicate, mainly because of the lot sizes. 3 acres in here is very common. So one of the drawbacks, though, of being in a place like Woodard's Mill is what you'll also find as you go further down south in Chesapeake is that you're talking more septic and well systems. So if you don't like this, I mean, this is meaning that you're not close enough to the city utilities that you can use their city water and sewer. So if you're not really a fan of that, or you don't know how that really works, just keep in mind, maybe trend closer towards Etheridge Manor Boulevard, just away from Woodard's Mill. It's kind of like the line there. Once you get closer into Hillwell is a good example, towards Etheridge, this is all city utilities up here. But as soon as you cross over, it's harder to get it. And not everywhere, right? Because as you go towards Edinburg, further down south, great part of town, that's all city. So it's not all as you go further south everywhere, but you'll start seeing more countryside, more areas that just the city has not found it necessary to go into all the neighborhoods. So this is important to factor in, and I think that there are a lot of things you can research about septic tanks and well systems, but you know, I have friends that live and use septic tanks at their house. I think some people enjoy it or prefer it more better than others. You do have to, maintain the systems, and it's more than what you might expect in like if you buy a house in city property, they require more maintenance that you might not expect when you buy a house in this part of town. So definitely, when you're looking for a house and you're trying to decide how far into the country you want, just remember that this is part of the equation. Inspecting those septic systems, making sure that if it's an old system, being prepared for maybe having to replace it in the next few years. As you go further south into Hickory, this is country. I'm gonna drop a pin here. I'm gonna say Benefit Road's a great example. Benefit Road. Whenever I hear Benefit Road, oh yeah, that's out there, right? So driving through here, see a house, nothing. Farmland, house, there's farmland. Look at all that. That is classic South Chesapeake. And so you get more custom style houses back here. You see this one here. A lot of houses that were built like in 2000s, 1990s, 2010s. You buy a lot, you own a lot, you find a builder that can do a custom job for you, and there you go. You get your nice house that may have double garage, 4 or 5 car garage, maybe has in-law suite in the back. You want multi-generational living, great spot for this, and you'll find more custom houses in this part of town. So, and larger spots for garages, for workshops, all that stuff, and just more space in general. So that's kind of the classic south part of Chesapeake. It's like south. As you go closer towards Ballahack Road, which is right here, and also Benefit Road, which is up here, all the same. It's a lot of the same kind of thing, and you're getting closer to North Carolina at this point too. So this over here, over the Great Dismal Swamp, keep in mind it's just a big space, and you have to drive around it. You can't drive through it. So it's a big part of Chesapeake that you can't really cross through, and so that makes it even harder as you're going down farther south into Chesapeake, towards the border of North Carolina, to get around, like even towards the western part, because you can't cut straight through the swamp. So that's important too, because as you go further closer to the south central part, you'll find more suburbs, but this is a lot easier to get back and forth to and from to the rest of town from, as opposed to the further south you go. Now, if you're close to a couple roads, it will help. Number one is going to be the Route 168 bypass. And I didn't mention this road before when I was talking about Kempsville Road, Battlefield Boulevard, but 168 bypass it really changed the game if you were living in the south part of Chesapeake. And you can take different exits to get off of, like, for example, I mentioned Edinburg before, real nice, kind of like a really premier kind of spot in Chesapeake. It feels far away, but some real nice newer houses in the neighborhood, even the neighborhood called Edinburg itself, it's an awesome neighborhood, and I love it. If you're talking like $1 million in that 1.1 range, I'll show you right here. Real nice houses, more like the early 2000s, mid 2000s, like 2006, 5, 6, 7. Big houses back here, but they're kind of exquisite, and you'll find some more with pools and nicer size lots as you get closer to these lakes over here. And you get also, next to Edinburg, you get Target, you get like the Walmart, you get the big boxes that are nearby, so you're not just secluded too far away from main stuff if you're in the Edinburg area. Some newer construction here, Hickory Manor, about $600,000. There's some that are condos that single family condos, so you see some new construction here that look like single family houses, which they are, but they're condos too, so you don't own all the land along with it. So keep that in mind. But it's cheaper options if you want to be in the Hickory School District. You want to be in Hickory Manor. You can get that for like in the 6s. Point is though that around 168, if you're close to the 168 bypass, you can take this road all the way up back into Chesapeake, in the central part of Chesapeake, and then get to wherever else you want to go. Virginia Beach, Norfolk, take to 464, towards Western Branch in Portsmouth, towards the Naval Hospital, towards the Coast Guard, 664. You can get there from the bypass. It was a very key road that changed the game in Chesapeake, as well as Route 17, which is the George Washington Highway. Another thing too is that there are a couple roads, well, Battlefield Boulevard is one of them. Battlefield Boulevard and Cedar Road are the next two roads to discuss or rediscuss, because this is the gateway to the other part of Chesapeake, which is across the Great Bridge right here. This is a bridge that lifts, and it's super annoying. It's a cool bridge. As you go across there, going from the north part of Battlefield going to the south part, this is the other part of like the classic Great Bridge part of town that I think the most known, like it's when you think of Great Bridge, this is the part of town that people a lot of times think of because it's also close to Chesapeake City Hall. Some nice neighborhoods in here. I mentioned Wilson Heights before, which is all through here. 400 or 500 price range. Big fan of this part of town. Big fan. They got the trees. I mentioned I love trees. You know I love trees. But you get some that are smaller, like in the 375 to 400 price range. But then you get some that are 400 or 500, but they're like real nice, real secluded. The lots are nice, kind of like it's a little bit bigger version of Essex Meadows in a sense too. So you're close to Cedar Road, and being off Cedar Road is very, very helpful too because you get to Battlefield, you can get to the other side towards Route 17, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But anything along Cedar Road here, you'll find a kind of a common pattern of a little bit newer house, a little bit newer, like the developments. If you find that they start kind of gradually getting newer as you get further away from Cedar, but like off of Cedar Road. Places like Las Gaviotas, built in I guess it would be the 80s, and Pines of Warwick, which is right next to that. I'll show you Pines of Warwick first. Pines of Warwick and Las Gaviotas have some similarities to them, but that 80s style house. So you get some brick ranches, you get some, you're seeing that ranch style kind of fade out, and more vinyl siding 2-story houses become more common. 2,500 square feet, you can get them in like the 525, 550 price range. And same with Las Gaviotas. And you can get some even in the 4s, really, but mostly going to be in the 5 and up range. But real nice established neighborhood, right? Then as you come out of there, next to that is going to be Las Gaviotas. Some people say Las Gav, but Las Gaviotas has some real nice neighborhood, or some real nice houses in them near the golf course, the Chesapeake Golf Club. And you'll find different price ranges in here, different sizes. You'll find some in the 6s. You'll find some in the 5s. You might even still find some in the 4s, like some smaller houses in Las Gaviotas that you can sneak in there. Same kind of thing, same kind of style that you're finding in the 80s and 90s that becomes more popular, which is that kind of that classic 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath type of house that has like the living room, dining room, maybe a formal living room, like 3 or 4 rooms downstairs, stairs that go up right in the middle of the house, up to have 4 rooms, 4 bedrooms in the top, and maybe a 5th or the 4th that has a frog. Now I want to talk about frogs briefly because this is a very common Chesapeake thing as well, because you see those windows right there, right over here too? Those are frogs, finished rooms over the garage. What does that mean and why am I talking about it? Well, what people started doing is they started trying to maximize the attic space that you find in some of these house elevations or faces or roof structures, and so they would convert those areas into rooms instead of attic spaces. You'll find some that might still be unfinished spaces, but most of them are finished spaces. And because they're over the garage, they're a finished room over the garage or frog. And so those are helpful because they can be that 4th bedroom or maybe the 5th bedroom that someone might really need to get the type of size that they want in a house. There are some really big benefits. People like them for offices. They're usually bigger rooms. The drawbacks are, the main one is the fact that while it's a big space, it might have, like you see this roof style line here, it's often pitched differently. So as you can imagine, a lot of times the ceiling heights in those rooms aren't always the same across the whole room. So it doesn't feel like as big a room as it might actually be. So that makes it feel weird, number one. Number two is they might have weird closets, either no closets or strange closets, or what they're doing is they're making a room out of the space they have to work with around the attic, right? And so you can find just really weird solutions to space problems in that room, and it just doesn't feel like a normal bedroom, which is why I mention this, is because you'll find those described as bedrooms on the MLS, on listings, but when you see those, know that there are oftentimes, if you see one that looks like a frog and it says 4 bedrooms, you might be expecting 4 traditional bedrooms, but you're getting 3 traditional bedrooms and a frog a lot of times. You find some nice spots, like great trees. I love this neighborhood. Las Gaviotas is one of my favorites in all of Chesapeake. Again, also accessible to the rest of town, close to Cedar Road and over towards Dominion Boulevard. And you'll find a lot of the similar types of neighborhoods all through near Cedar Road, north and south. Now, there are some flooding issues that come up as you get closer to around the Cedar Road area on the north side, especially near Bell's Mill. So you see, as you're getting close to the Elizabeth River here, anything close to some of these creeks in the north side, they can be susceptible to some rising water. It's not everywhere, but you will find some spots that require flood insurance. Keep that in mind. Now, One neighborhood I like a lot is called Heritage Point. Love this neighborhood, and it's close to water. You get some little nooks here, some creeks that come off the river. So for like the 4.5, 5.25 price range, get a real nice, surprisingly nice neighborhood. It's not a big neighborhood, but it's awesome for the location and price. And again, I'm always a big fan of finding those little neighborhoods that people don't really pay attention to. Now, as you get towards Route 17, this is an important road, Dominion Boulevard. This is important because it's a main easy road to get to the rest of, like, back to the bypass to 64. It's also helpful to get down towards North Carolina and down towards the Great Dismal Swamp. But it's a toll road. This is the Veterans Bridge right here. And so if you're living near Cedar Road, or if you're living anywhere around Dominion Boulevard, in Deep Creek, for example, which we'll talk about in a minute, taking the Veterans Bridge will cost you, I don't remember the name of the cost now, I think it's $2. I'll check the prices and post them. But going both ways, if you want to save some time, you're going to be paying some money to boot. So it's not going to be the easiest to swallow if you don't like paying tolls. Now, especially if you're on Cedar, you can go around there and go towards the rest of Chesapeake, back towards the bypass and go around, but you're spending more time doing that. So if you're close by, it's going to be easy to hop on there and go up towards the rest of Chesapeake, and it's going to save you a lot of time. But again, it's not going to be just easy to take because of the toll. This takes you, as you get over, this is Grassfield School District number 1. This is as we get into Great Bridge and Hickory. From there, over into Grassfield over here. Now we're going from Grassfield, we're going to get into Deep Creek. This is where the school district, you'll start seeing prices change because of the school district, in my opinion. And so Deep Creek, south, north, anywhere around Deep Creek, you'll find that the prices are a little bit cheaper. This is a little bit of an older part of town compared to like the places in Greenbrier, yes, but Grassfield, towards Hickory and Great Bridge, and not as many newer suburban parts of town. There are some, like, so for example, Culpeper Landing is like the newest part of town that has like the most unique style of house that I think people like, the trendy kind of new craftsman. People like those columns. You'll find more of those in the Culpeper Landing part of town. It's kind of tucked away in the corner, nice like planned subdivision, which is great, like in the 5s range mostly. As you go further north, you'll find that the houses are more like back in the 50s, the 60s. You'll find some in the 80s, like as you come getting off of a Culpeper Landing. So Mill Creek, good example. Drop a pin here. You'll see some more back to those ranch style, like in the 80s. And so if you want like a more of a functional style house, this is a great option for that type, like in the $350 to $425 price range. Great option, or maybe $450 in Deep Creek, which I think as a general rule, if you want to be in Deep Creek, you'll be paying less. And I think if you want to be in this part of town, this is a good spot to pivot if you want to save some money in this general part of Deep Creek. Now, not every part of Deep Creek feels the same. So if I'm going to show you, let's go towards, this part like Old Mills is country. Like, so it feels more rural, right? Like kind of a mixture, but it feels kind of more rural, like parts of what the South Chesapeake area feels like. But there are some neighborhoods that, they're fine. They're fine, but it's something fancy, like 325 houses. See some ranches in here. This is fine. Not a lot to say other than the fact that you're not going to be paying for like a fancy, exquisite neighborhood. You're also not going to be, it's not a mess either. It's just not really that fancy and exciting. That's why you're not paying as much either. So if you want, let's just a practical 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house from the 300s range. Place like Strawberry Acres, which is where this is, I think is a good option. But anywhere, this is like the central part of Deep Creek is where I'm talking about here. And if you want houses that have some space on lots but don't want to spend as much money, stay in Deep Creek if you can. A great example is a place called Brentwood, which is right off of Route 17 over right here. Great neighborhood, nothing fancy, but you'll find like it's more kind of a established part of town. But you'll find like sometimes these lots, I'll zoom out, see these lots are a little bit larger. You can see like there's a little more space in the back. You can add more, like see that guy just did a garage in the back. So for the price and for the capabilities of what you can do in your yard, you might find a place like Brentwood, which is a neighborhood right off of Route 17 over here, might be a good option as well. And this is the north part of Deep Creek, over towards Camelot, which is the neighborhood across the street. And this is right near the edge of Chesapeake connecting to Portsmouth, which is right next here as you cross over Victory Boulevard, which is right here. So I would keep Deep Creek in mind if you want more lot size for the price. Now as you go further west, see Interstate 64 right here. This is the main road to keep in mind as you're going further towards the west is the high-rise bridge, which is on Interstate 64. The high-rise bridge it used to be awful for traffic, and it's still not good. It's the frustrating part that if you drive from the rest of West Chesapeake, which we'll talk about next, over towards the rest of the east part of Chesapeake or Virginia Beach, you'll run into the high-rise bridge, and the traffic has been unbearable or frustrating during rush hour until like the last few months. They've redone this whole bridge, and it's turned into they've added lanes. They have added an express lane. It's going to change the complexion of what it feels like to go from one side of Chesapeake to the other for this reason. And I just drove across it this weekend. They just started the tolls, and I think it's super cheap. It's like for the whole thing to go from like anywhere from near 664 on this side all the way across over to Indian River Road. It's like $1. I think it's $1.30, and so halfway it's like 80 cents. It's great. It saves you a lot of time. I love that express lane. I think that's going to be a great game changer for the rest of Chesapeake. So going into the rest of Chesapeake is the Western Branch. I like Western Branch a lot. It's one of my underrated, I think it's one of the most underrated parts of the Hampton Roads area. I think it's got some high-rank school districts. Just keep in mind for schools, look on niche.com and greatschools.org. You'll see more information about the schools. There's two different sections of Western Branch, which is north and south. I kind of blend them together myself, but you'll find that there is a mixture of houses built in the 50s and 60s, like those same kind of thing. Like you'll find more Chesapeake ranch style. In a place like Chadwick Terrace is a great neighborhood, a great example of this. I love this neighborhood. Also kind of tucked away in there, brick ranches. The lot sizes are really nice. You don't feel like you're crammed up on people. Very established neighborhood with lots of trees. And you're not paying too much either. I think you're talking right now in the $4-ish, $4.25, $4.50, $3.75 price range as you get closer to, this is Chadwick as well over towards the Portsmouth Boulevard area. Now the reason I mentioned Portsmouth Boulevard is because it's not Portsmouth. Well, part of it is. This part is not. This is Chesapeake Square. And I mentioned this before, I call it Greenbrier Light, and it really is similar to Greenbrier. It's a smaller version of it. You see the Olive Garden, you see the Chesapeake Square Mall, there's a Best Buy over here, right there. So it's very similar to what you find in Greenbrier, just less of everything. So you got the big boxes, the Target, the Home Depot, everything is here, Walmart, Sam's Club, just like in Greenbrier. But it's in an area that is a smaller part of town, so it's a smaller version of Greenbrier. And so I think that if you are going to be buying in an area like in Western Branch, you'll find that being close to Chesapeake Square is super, super helpful. And there are neighborhoods as you pop out that are different price ranges, like Stonebridge Landing. You'll find some good ones like Point Elizabeth, which is over here up towards Tire Neck Road. I love Point Elizabeth, which is over on the edge, right along the water here. Some good property like between 4 and even like on the water is 750, 800 plus sometimes, but great prices for water access. But if not, you can get some real good value in Point Elizabeth. I'll drop a pin there so you can see what that looks like. You notice too, I'm a big fan of houses that are on lots that are just that extra space that feels like you're not close to your neighbor. I love people, but it's nice to feel a little bit like further apart from everybody, right? Just the extra space. In places like Point Elizabeth, you get that. So I like that type of atmosphere that you can find in a place like that. That's number one. Now, there are other spots like Jolliffe Woods, Brittany Woods, which is actually across the street. I'll show you here. Real nice neighborhood, same kind of thing. Some more custom stuff in here sometimes, but same kind of vibe here. Some of these houses built like in the 70s, find them in the 80s. And it's kind of like when a lot of these houses were built, right? And so that being said, like places like in Jolliffe Woods, Brittany Woods, Point Elizabeth, you'll be paying this for the same house over in Virginia Beach or like even other parts of Chesapeake. You'll be paying anywhere from $40,000, $50,000 more to anywhere from to over $100,000 maybe more in some parts, just because if you're paying for Virginia Beach, right? So I like the value you can find for the same type of house in Chesapeake in Western Branch, like in a place like Jolliffe Woods, Point Elizabeth, Forest Hills, Brittany Woods. Some really nice neighborhoods in here. And so even beyond that, some other ones I think that are worth mentioning. Myers Plantation, which is more like in the 6s and 7s and up. These are more established. These are like a little bit larger houses, a little bit larger lots, a little bit of everything. Bigger houses though too. Like got the frog, but you have just a lot of space. And more like a 90s-ish style house, more like an open floor plan that you might find in a place like other parts of Chesapeake, right? So that's important, and there aren't too many houses like that in Western Branch. But there's also Myers Farm, which is across the road towards Taylor Road over here. In this area over here, right, there's some condos in here, like in like the 2s and closer to 3, but also single family houses like in the 500 price range as well. You see over here too. So the mixture is nice, and again, the prices here are so awesome. And so Taylor Road's important. The main roads to keep in mind on Western Branch is Taylor Road, which is up here, connecting over towards High Street, which is towards Portsmouth, and down towards the Pewsville Road, which is near 664. That's a main road, as well as Bruce Road, as well as Taylor Road continues to go down south here, by the way, and also Portsmouth Boulevard. These 3 roads are your main thoroughfares, if you will, to get around the Western Branch part of town. So being close to them is fine. Even if you're not close to one, it's not too far to get there, but it's helpful to be close to 664 because that will take you up towards Newport News. It's like 20 minutes on a good day to Newport News, as well as going towards 64 that takes you towards the rest of Chesapeake and towards Norfolk and Virginia Beach. So being close to 64 is very helpful. Now, driving from 64 or this part of Western Branch all the way over to Virginia Beach will take you anywhere from 30 to 35 minutes. And it can take you 50 minutes and up if it gets trafficy. But with this new high-rise bridge express and more lanes and rebuilt bridge, I think it's going to help save a lot of time. Or you can go cut across, take the tunnel through 264, and want new construction going over towards, this is Portsmouth Boulevard, the line of Suffolk is right here, and then going over here north towards Shoulders Hill Road, this is Jolliffe Landing right here. This is new construction, and for like the 5s and 6s, some great new construction, not a big lot, but I think for the price, if you want new construction, this is a great option, and be close to 664 if you want to be close to the base, Coast Guard, going towards Newport News. I think being in this section is very accessible, and if you want new construction, this is a good option in my opinion. As you go further down the Edinburg Parkway, this is Suffolk, and this is all country over here more so. So this is like right on the edge of what I would consider the most accessible part of town. As you go into Suffolk, it's harder to get to Virginia Beach and to Norfolk and Chesapeake. And the further away you get from 664, it just becomes that much harder. So that's why I say Jolliffe Landing is probably the closest for this new construction that I like if you don't want to be in Suffolk and be too far away. Now, another part of town, as you go up further north, just north of Taylor Road, is another neighborhood I like called Wellington, which is next to 664, which is a drawback. However, separate from that, I think there's some nice neighborhoods in here. I like the feel in here. Some real like well taken care of yards. I think just for that style house, you find a lot of those in like the 80s and 90s in Chesapeake. I think that for the price is going to be like in the 4s and 5s range, you'll find some good options. But drawback here again is going to be you're close to the interstate. So if you look at a house like right along the interstate, you're going to hear that, and I think it might be a little bit more of an annoyance. But as you go further away, it won't be as big of a deal. It's more like if you're right on the interstate. And so one of the benefits and also drawback to being in the Western Branch area is that you'll get shopping access, right? You're going to get Chesapeake Square. You're going to get even into Suffolk. The northeast Suffolk part of town is great. Some more great shopping nearby there as well. Great Kroger up there, by the way. But other than that, it's going to be that there's no huge, massive spot like in Virginia Beach. There's not a lot of nightlife. There's not a lot of grocery stores that are like plentiful like you find in Virginia Beach, where you'll find them all over the place. You'll find them a lot more in the southern part of Chesapeake, but not as much in the Western Branch part. But if that's not as big of a deal to you, you can get a better value, I think, price for the house in nice neighborhoods in Western Branch than I think you can almost anywhere in Chesapeake, like just bang for buck combo. I did a video about Western Branch talking about that too. Now, if you have any more questions about relocating to Chesapeake, I have a ton of neighborhoods I haven't talked about. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I haven't talked about. If you have any questions about moving to the Chesapeake area or the rest of Hampton Roads, this is what I do. I love helping people relocate to the area. I love talking about this area. I love this area. I grew up here. So if you have any questions, let me know. I've got my contact information in the description. Email, call, text. Let me know if you're coming in town to do some reconnaissance, to kind of do some planning to move. I'll give you a plan of action for when you're here. You can call me, email me, text me, and I'll do whatever I can to help you relocate to the area. And I will see you on the next video.